Remember, we have a introduction and a break. Good morning. Go get your coffee, and we'll be right back with GHC Coffee Break. And joining me will be Jim and Bonnie Moore. Get your coffee. We'll be right back.
Your life is filled with opportunities to show the world you can take charge. It's waking up each day with a mission. It's working each day toward a goal. It's choosing to rise. It's charging forward with a purpose. It's changing the course of your life and taking charge of your future. If you're ready to be a Take Charger, enroll at Georgia Highlands College today.
Hello and welcome to GHC Coffee Break. I'm really excited about my guests this morning, Jim and Bonnie Moore. Longtime friends, hadn't seen each other in a while, professionally or personally, and I really have missed you guys. Thank you for joining me today. I know sometimes that it seems like so long. We were just chatting before taping the show, and so really happy to have you guys here. So.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. We hadn't been here. Gosh, we've been here probably once or twice before over the years, but it's indeed a pleasure to see you again, Susan. We missed you.
Well, I missed you too.
It was great catching up this morning. We still have a lot of catching up to do, though.
I know. We're going to have lunch or something.
Yeah.
And, actually, I think I'm going to come up wiggle my way into a visit up in your cabin or something, because that sounds wonderful. See how easy I invite myself, right?
Well, you're more than welcome. That's what we built it for.
Well, we were talking, June is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Right.
And what better way to get a mental health break, right?
Exactly, exactly.
You know, mental health is something that a lot of people still, even though we say mental health awareness, it's still something, I think it's like the white elephant in the room. We think if we don't talk about it, we don't even want to recognize it as being something. If somebody's sick and they have cancer, or they're sick and it's something that physical, you know, everybody's, oh, I'm sorry you're not feeling well, you got a snuffy nose, allergies come in. It's recognizable, and people, you know, they have that empathy.
They do, and often they'll take casseroles. But mental health is a no casserole disease.
Isn't that true? That's so funny you said that, because I was just reading something from a mom talking about when her child, they found out that their child had a mental illness. And you're exactly right. That it was almost those exact words that, you know, their child came home with a tonsillectomy, and she got all these casseroles and things. But when her other child came home and they were diagnosed with a mental illness, it was almost like everybody ran the other way.
It is. And, you know, it's one of those things that, and people understand, when you have a child or a loved one with a mental illness and they're going through a crisis and they've been hospitalized and come home, it's a longer sometimes process. And it's very taxing, not only physically, but mentally. And plus, you don't know maybe when the next shoe's going to fall. So there's always some things going on. So, and we really need that support.
And I know Jim and Bonnie both, y'all have, y'all made it no secret. In fact, y'all are the champions, in my opinion. I respect and admire both of you, and appreciate that y'all have a daughter who has a mental illness.
Well, she's so forthcoming.
Yes, she is.
She wants people to know it, because she wants to erase stigma. And that now that we're here for May, being Mental Awareness Month, it is called.
June, I meant May.
It's called, what is it, Jim? Cure Stigma.
Yeah, let me talk about that and jump in with the statistics. You know, we're talking about mental illnesses, and just for the viewers out there, there's a whole range of them, ranging from, you know, we've all heard about schizophrenia, you know, people who have delusions, often talk to themselves, and paranoid, and, you know, that's a typical picture of somebody that's really, really ill. And, you know, they comprise what is it?
1%?
1 or 2%. Now, one of the things that we would like to say that, throw this statistics out, well, like 1 out of every 5 people, and we talk about Floyd County. You know, that's 20,000 people here in Floyd County that during their lifetime will be affected by a mental illness. Now, it may not be as severe, and it won't be as severe as schizophrenia, but it could be something like anxiety or panic attacks or children with ADHD. We see a lot of that. But those are types of mental illnesses. But the serious ones, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and clinical depression, that's probably, you know, 1 out of every 25 people that are dealing with that debilitating illness that just takes them out of work, for example. What's the statistic, Bonnie, that, it's hard for me to say that, but what is the statistics of people that are out of work because of mental illness? How much does that cost us?
How much does it cost the American public?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what that would be, Susan? It's staggering. $193 billion is lost yearly in the workplace because
Yearly?
Yearly.
Billion, not million.
No,
billion.
Billion. And it's not just the person that has the illness. Like when I was working, I had to quit a good job. So it's not just the person with the illness, but those that are affected that have to take time off from work to take care of their loved one. But when I tell people that, they just go, they look at me like, what? $193 billion a year is lost in the workplace.
So I guess that's what this is saying, that a huge segment of our society is dealing with mental illness, and it affects us monetarily too.
And that, unfortunately, and I'm not trying, we're a money built on money, a society built on money. See, I can't talk today. I said June. I said May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but we do have. We're hitting people's pocketbooks.
Yeah, we are. And so if we had, guess what? If we had the treatment that we needed, if we put even half of that $193 billion into health care for the people with mental illness, guess what? That figure would go down drastically.
Okay.
And it's not just the person with the mental illness, as you said, it's the family and the people around it.
Exactly.
And the impact that a corporation.
Exactly.
Think about how much money they're losing because of their, not just the person that may have the mental illness, but their family members that are having to help deal with the
Exactly.
mental illness.
Now let me jump in now.
Okay, please.
Let me get into the theme of Mental Health Month this year. And let's go back a couple of years with the Zika virus. Is that what it was?
Zika, yeah.
The Zika virus. And good gracious, we were fearful that it would affect us. You see the pictures of the newborns with, you know, how it affected them physically. So even though that was not necessarily on our shores, but it was moving up from Florida, and oh my gosh, it comes here. So that's an impact of a virus. People take notice, and I'm going to say that there's another virus going along with people who have mental illness, and that's called stigma.
Yeah.
That's a virus that affects the people from receiving treatment or asking for treatment and getting treatment, staying on the regimen. It's a stigma. And unlike the Zika virus,
That's okay.
mental health stigma is 100% curable. Why do we think that somebody who has clinical depression, why do we think that the sun's out, why don't you just get up and go to bed? And they can't. Then we get mad at them because they can't. And then we kind of walk away from them. The mental illness is an illness of the brain. It's a physical condition. It's treatable, yet so many people are not being treated, mainly because of, well, it could be because they're denying the condition exists and not having access to good treatment. And a lot of this is really goes back to, well, if we as a public accepted mental illness for what it is and treated it accordingly, we wouldn't be spending losing $193 billion due to lack of productivity. We would be getting treatment. We would be getting first class meds, not fail first on another med. And y'all may not know what I'm talking about there, but over the years, people would have to fail on a medication before giving them
3 times,
the
not
name
just once.
brand
3
med.
times.
So they give them the old class of medications.
Okay.
So people with mental illness were not treated as with
Good medicine.
with the for example, diabetes.
Oh yeah.
And that's a illness that you have to deal with for a long period of time. Mental illness is like that too, and we say that with proper treatment and care, recovery is possible. You can live with it just like you can diabetes.
Well, Susan, if we went home tonight and an airplane went down and 121 people were killed, we'd go, oh my word. And we'd feel bad about it. So we go home the next night and another airplane goes down and 121 people are killed. And we're starting to think, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then you go home the third night and an airplane goes down and 121 people are killed again. What would we do? We'd want to be marching on Washington.
What's going on with these airplanes?
Exactly. We as a society would be outraged. So we're talking about 363 people. But we lose more people. I mean, we lose, somebody to suicide, is it every 15 seconds or something? And 90% of them have a mental health condition. And we as a society are not outraged?
That's eye-opening big time.
Yeah, but we as a society, after 3 airplanes went, well, look at the engine things. That was a big thing. I mean, were we not just like, what's going on with these airplanes? I don't want to fly.
Yeah.
But why are we not doing that with mental illness when 1 in 5 are affected yearly? More than any other disease, more than anything else. So we need to wake up and realize, and it's not, and anyone can have a mental illness, so it's not just.
And I think that's one of the myths that we definitely hear and see a lot of times is that it only happens to the poor people. Right. It only happens to minorities. It only happens to, it's this idea of who it happens to.
Exactly.
It's an equal opportunity employer.
Yeah.
It affects all groups, all ethnic groups, all socioeconomics. I was speaking to a friend of ours who is a psychiatrist a couple of 3 years ago, and he's from India. And I asked him about people with schizophrenia and what are they paranoid about? I know the CIA is not in India as the CIA is here, or FBI.
Right.
But a lot of individuals with schizophrenia will fear government police organization, i.e. the CIA, is coming to get them. And he says the same way in India. It's just a name of a different group.
Different group.
So that's saying that it's a universal illness. And again, it's our brain cells are affected adversely because of the neurotransmission of all of the
chemical imbalances.
Chemicals, and all of that. That's what it is. And so medication is there to alleviate it or the conditions and treat it. And one of these days we'll be able to find a medication that would eradicate it. And that's something that it doesn't exist, but it would be great to.
Well, what we'd like to see is early intervention, especially with children. And as we know, anytime anything is caught early, you have a better prognosis of being able to live with something, finding the right medication. So luckily we have Representative Katie Dempsey that has been pushing for from early intervention within our schools and stuff, which is exactly what we need. We don't need to wait till somebody is like stage 4 in cancer before we do anything, because the signs and symptoms are there early. But parents don't know what those signs and symptoms are. And a lot of doctors don't know early signs and symptoms. And that's with Jamie. We kept taking her to the doctor because the signs and symptoms were there.
Even before 14?
Oh yeah, I mean early.
Oh gosh,
when she was we knew almost from the time she was born there was something different. And we took her to doctor after doctor, and they said, oh, she's the third child. They gave me some excuse until she had her first suicide attempt. So if parents and educators are attuned to what some of the early signs and symptoms are to get early intervention, the better the prognosis would be when they become adults.
And we're gonna wrap just for a second. We'll be right back, but get your coffee, and we'll be right back with GHC Coffee Break.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. Bonnie, I'm sorry I had to cut you off.
Oh, that's
right in your thought process, but they kind of give me the wrap-up sign, so you know how it is. But continue that thought, and then we'll get to some more.
Well, early signs and symptoms are so important to understand that a lot of times it's not bad behavior of the children. It's something going on in their brain that they can't control. And like I said, we tried very early on with Jamie because she'd have outbursts. And they'd say, well, ADHD. Well, it wasn't ADHD. And so we just struggle with that. But Jim and I teach a course through NAMI. It's called NAMI Basics, and it's a free 6-week class. And it teaches parents and caregivers if their child has some type of brain disorder, or they think they have some type of disorder. And is it 13, Jim? I think we go over, it's quite a few, whereas an adult, it kind of shrinks. But we go over a lot of signs and symptoms. Oppositional defiance disorder. We talk about the brain, but one of the things that this class does is it gives you a log of very specific things, records to keep, so that you can take to the doctor, so that you can log these things in, and you can see those signs and symptoms early on. So that's one of the things that we would love to be able to get out to parents if you think, gosh, something's just not right with my child. And we'd love to be able to help teach them things, signs and symptoms to look at early, and what to talk to the doctor about.
Well, and teachers, I would think, because I think you're exactly right. A lot of times teachers even, who sees your child more than a teacher?
Exactly.
That's right.
They have them, 6-7 hours a day, just about. And that's waking hours. We get them that much maybe, but it's a lot of that time is sleeping hours too.
Exactly.
So who sees them more and sees, especially with other children, they're going to see a lot more, I think, interaction, because when we get them home from school, we get home from work or school, we feed them, we bathe them, we put them to bed. That's a limited interaction kind of, whereas a school, they might see more of that.
Well, and you say, oh, they're tired, they've had a bad day at school, so they're irritable tonight, and they're fussy, or they're argumentative because they've had a rough day at school, and maybe that's not it. Maybe they're just trying, because children don't know.
Right.
They can't say, this is what's going on in my brain, because Jamie had a lot of things going on in her brain that she thought was normal.
Right.
And when she first told me, I'm thinking, this is not normal. But to her, she didn't know any different. Yeah. She'd always heard voices or things going on. And when she finally told us, we started seeking help. But anyway, we had been seeking help since she was very, very young. So it's one of those things that's out there.
Yeah.
It's out there. And you're usually not diagnosed until late teens, early 20s with some type of mental health. They are diagnosing earlier. And there's so many other things other than medication that you can do, because we believe in biopsychosocial model. It's kind of like a three-legged stool. Bio is the medication part, the social part, therapy, so that you learn those skills, and then and the social part is the people around them to support them. And so it's a three-legged stool, and you take one of those legs away, and guess what? You can teeter a little bit, right?
Yeah.
but you take another leg away and you're going to fall. So it takes 3 different things. So people think it's just medication. It is not just medication. It's a lot more than that.
Speaking of medication, we were talking earlier about, mentioned the fact that medication is not the answer. However, it goes a longer way in getting people at a stable point and then live in recovery. However, access to medication is an issue that many people face. NAMI has a class which we're going to offer in Rome in May. It's just a 2-hour session on what are the issues facing medication, access to medication, and how can an individual write a short deliverable elevator story, or elevator speech to present to decision makers on how we can get the right medication at the right time.
Okay.
So we're doing that very short 2-hour block on May the 19th. And if this is appropriate, may I give our contact information? Sure. NAMI Rome is part of one affiliate that serves Northwest Georgia, and mainly around Georgia Highlands College. And we can be reached about this class or any other information at our phone number, and I'll give you that now. So grab a pencil. 706 506 5010. Remember that?
What's our email address if they would like to
Yeah,
email
you
us?
can email me at, this one's kind of easy, NAMI Rome GA@gmail.com.
Okay.
Is that
NAMIRomeGA@gmail.com. Well, you get in touch with us because May being Mental Health Month, we're going to do some activities in Rome and in Dalton. And our nearest affiliate that serves Cobb County, which, you know, you have a GHC campus there, they can be contacted too. And if you want to know that, you can contact us and we can get you in touch with them. So
It's always good to have resources.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah, they're good. Let's go. Cure Stigma. Here's all of y'all have a test. Okay, it's a 3-question test. You can find it on curestigma.org. And if you get all of them right, stigma is not an issue with you. If you get all of the questions 1 or more wrong, let's work on the stigma. So go to curestigma.org and take a 3-question little quiz, and there's also a video on it that shows people discussing stigma. So that's our theme for this month's, May's Mental Health Awareness Month is Cure Stigma, hashtag Cure Stigma for all of you Twitter folks, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, look at that and try it out.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing that I think would also be interesting for our audience to know too is, what was it like as a parent to live with someone with mental health issues?
It was hard. It was hard because we never knew what was going to happen. Trying to find the right doctor, trying to find the right medications. At one time, we were spending about $5,000 a month on her medications. And she was on a lot of medications, and the medications had so many side effects that she went from a size 6'8" to a 24 in 6 months. Almost all of her hair fell out. And, you know, as a mom of a teenage daughter, that's when, you know, we as teenagers are starting to find out who we are and pull away and learn our identity and make friends and do those important things in life that give us those life skills later on. And she didn't have that. So it was kind of heartbreaking, but Jim and I are not going to give up. We were not going to give up till we had an answer, and that's when we found NAMI. And that probably was our lifeline on learning her illness. And she's learned her illness, and I think that's a big thing, and helping other people.
Yeah, Jamie's our hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just for us to be able to share as we've done today about her, and she's like an open book. And
She is.
and
I've
she
met
would
her.
be
She's a
here
wonderful
sharing too,
yeah.
but she had a bunion removed on her foot, so she's under weather now. She teaches. She's in what we call recovery, and because she teaches has a presentation where she tells our story, and if you want it, you can invite her to your church group or
She's
school
actually
group.
come out to
Oh,
the
she has.
college and
Yes,
done
more
some
than one
work.
time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
my
So
classes.
she can do an in our own voice presentation, and we would love to be able for her to tell you her story, which is the dark days all the way up to today, and living in recovery. So we're happy for her. She leads a weekly support group. Now she's teaching a 10-week class. So all of this she volunteers to do, and that's great. And many people kind of wallow in misery, and she accepts it and goes beyond it. And that's why she's our hero.
Well, and her husband also, who has schizoaffective disorder, he works a 40-hour job a week down in Dallas and lives in Rome. So, you know, people think, well, I can't do anything. That is one of those myths that
Yeah.
you can.
And I think that's one of the things that I have loved about getting to know your family is that it really has taught me over the years, and why I've called y'all my heroes and why I've looked up to you guys, because I don't think people, again, it goes back to that idea of when we see something, everybody can be empathetic, but when you don't see it, it's like you said, well, the sun's out, get out and play, and you'll feel
Exactly.
better.
Yeah.
Or, you know, even the simple things of, you know, we hear the vitamin D, SAD.
Yes.
We don't understand why people can't just, well, what's wrong with you? You know, buck up, or,
Right.
you know, you could smile. Like you mentioned earlier with suicide, a lot of people who have killed themselves by suicide have had some associated mental health issues. And again, reminding people, they are not the diagnosis, they have a diagnosis.
Oh,
that's
gosh, good
Jamie
point.
always leaves people. She said, I want to leave you with one thing. I am Jamie Griffin. I am not my illness. And you know, right now, Susan, we're in the opioid crisis, which you're hearing
Yes.
so much of. Well, most people with mental illness, over 50 some odd percent, and it's actually higher, have what we call dual diagnosis.
Yes.
So they have an addiction to alcohol, drugs, or whatever it may be. So, you know, and again, it goes hand in hand. So we've got this opioid crisis that everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, which we should. But again, we want people to jump on the bandwagon about mental illness to try and erase the stigma, to cure the stigma.
Exactly.
It's curable.
It is.
Well, let's wrap this up and get your coffee. We'll be right back with GHC Coffee Break.
Your life is filled with opportunities to show the world you can take charge. It's waking up each day with a mission. It's working each day toward a goal. It's choosing to rise. It's charging forward with a purpose. It's changing the course of your life and taking charge of your future. If you're ready to be a Take Charger, enroll at Georgia Highlands College today.
All right, we're back with GHC Coffee Break. Jim, one more time, contact information?
Good. So let's start with website. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, we call it NAMI. Why don't you just go NAMI.org, and you can open that, and it can give you all kinds of information. And if you want to drill down to our level, go to NAMIRomeGA.org. You can see what we're doing locally.
And the phone number one more time?
And the phone number is 706-506-5010. So go on our website, and you can see how to get in touch with us on our email. We gave you that earlier.
All right. Thank you for joining us on GHC Coffee Break. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Until next time, stop the stigma.